Well, welcome back to the Family Building Podcast. We are excited today to have Dr. Tammy Bradshaw Scott with us. And what impresses me so much about your background is how you are able to serve this adoption community. Many refer to it as the adoption triad: the adoptive parents, the biological parents, and the adoptee. And I think that your background lays a great foundation for our clients and all members of the triad to really obtain help for you in the future. So we're excited to have you on. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I am a clinical psychologist. I have worked in the field for about 15 years. I've been very blessed to work with all different ages, backgrounds, different settings, and have really grown to respect, especially the field of adoption, foster children. I've worked a lot with kids who have gone into the systems. I'm very excited to be here.
I understand you were part of a TV show here in California. Can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that?
Yes, the show is called A New Day with Dr. Tammy. It's still airing. They're in repeats right now, asking for some more episode. It is through the Loma Linda Broadcasting Network, and it is on Smart Lifestyle TV. So that's kind of the network. And it is Loma Linda Broadcasting Network is a global television network. And so it goes into all different homes across the globe, which is very exciting. The show is just really helping people in different areas of their life, different aspects. And I always have a guest on, interview them, and hopefully and prayerfully we get to bring some information to audiences and some help for them.
Well, let's lay some foundation. Let's find out about your life and what has given you such a passion to help this adoption community. So I'm going to let you take us into the nitty gritty life of Dr. Tammy growing up. Go ahead.
Okay, well, that's a pretty, should I say, thick book that I feel God is writing my story. But I came from a home that was broken. Well, my biological mother gave me up when I was 3, not to adoption. Unfortunately, that probably would have been a good thing, but she abandoned me and my 2 brothers. And we ended up with a stepmother who was very abusive, abused alcohol, was drunk most days, and then abused me and my 2 brothers. So that was my childhood, and teachers noticed it, but it was really before the Child Protective Act, so they noticed it, but there wasn't a lot that they could really do at that time. Um, but fast forward a little bit here, and I ended up on the streets at 14 years old. Um, I went into juvenile hall and had some time there, and then from there went into foster homes, in and out of foster homes and on the streets, which is very difficult, having to go through that. But I'm thankful, of course, today for the things that God has redeemed in my life, from that period. I became a mom myself at 16 years old. And of course, I didn't know what to do with this little child. I didn't have a mother of my own. I never really had a mother. So, kind of struggled with
Tammy,
that.
let me
Yeah,
ask you, were you in the foster care system when you had the 16-year-old child?
I had just left. I I ran away a lot from foster homes. So I would end up back on the streets.
Because
Yeah.
when we see children who are foster children in the system, that child that they have then becomes a ward or dependent of the court also. and that child might stay with the birth mother or that child might go into foster care. So I assume you didn't want any of those options to occur. And so you ran away so that the system wouldn't take your baby. Is that correct?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. Wow. How did you make it on the streets as a 16-year-old and a newborn?
Well, I ended up moving in with the father of the child at that time. Just a very lost kid myself. I didn't know. I had no direction. Just had no idea of what to do and how to manage. Um, and because I just had so many issues from my childhood, and I was just really a mess. Very broken young person, with a baby, a child with this baby. Um, and she was about 3 years old when I decided to leave the boyfriend because there was a lot of drugs involved. And I just wanted better for her. I didn't know what that looked like because I had never had that. But I just knew in my heart that this little person, this little child deserved better. And that actually is what brought me into a relationship with the Lord, with God. I actually ended up turning to Him because I needed help knowing what to do with this child. And because I didn't have parents or people to really support me, I really saw God as really my only option, you know. But little did I know He was one of the best options. And I gave my life over to Him. And from there, I got into a church and actually had women, and I didn't realize how important this is. And this is very important for your audience to understand, which is young women like myself in that situation need support,
Mhm.
especially when you don't come from a background. So many people who come from a good home, who have stability, grow up with stability, have a mother, father, have that stability, don't understand what it's like to not have that. And so I didn't realize at the time getting into a church it was a small church that was one of the best things I could do in terms of support to get that support. So women, to their credit, these women came around me and mentored me and supported me and my young child. They didn't judge me, which was very important because I wasn't cleaned up yet. you know, I wasn't looking like I fit in with the church group. We'll just
Yeah.
say that.
Did any of these women who came around you, did any of them have a similar life experience to you or some
Yes,
type of experience that you could really relate to? In other words, you saw credibility in them because
yes.
they could really understand where you came from?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that that is a very important point because of the type of church it was. If I had gone to, and this is side note, no judgment on any church, but coming from what I came from, and I needed down to earth people. I needed people who had similar backgrounds where I didn't feel such shame, even though I wore shame like perfect robe. Um, But these folks, they were so down to earth and they didn't judge me. They just loved me. They were there for me. The pastor was very supportive of me, never made me feel bad. And they just took me as I was. And that was the best example, really, of who Christ is, who loves us and accepts us as we are, just as we are, right? So,
So I see you as a as a as a therapist now. That's why I see your authenticity is that no matter who walks in your office, you can relate to and say, I understand. I've been there. In other words,
absolutely,
depression. Yes,
absolutely.
I've I've been to the depths of depression, loneliness, maybe suicide,
Yes.
hopelessness, poverty.
Abs-
Um, I can't imagine, Tammy, and I wouldn't want you to even share the bad things that could have happened to a 16-year-old out on the streets. But we know there is a lot of trafficking of children who are bouncing around and who run away from group homes. In fact, I believe the statistics are 80% of those young ladies are the ones who are being trafficked in America. And
Yes,
so
that's right.
you understand the depths of pain that this world can hand you, correct?
That's correct. Yes, absolutely. It's a scary place, and a lot of very bad things can happen. And as a young person, a lot of our young women who are out there don't know. They don't realize what dangers are out there, and how they can be pulled into that. And then once you have a child, you can feel stuck. You can feel like you have no options, and end up feeling very stuck. But I will tell you, Ted, what I determined. I had my little baby, and here I am now 17, and I was still going to parties, and I had this little baby, and I remember there were other young people there, and there was another young mom, totally wasted. And I was getting to the point where I was terrified to use anything while I had my child, because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to help her, take care of her. But I watched this other mother, and this is awful, but she put drops in the baby's eyes that were supposed to be for the ears. And the
Hmm.
mother was so out of it and so wasted that she didn't know she was putting the wrong medication. That scared the dickens out of me. I thought, my gosh, I don't ever want to. So I thank God so much that there was some awareness there for me. I didn't know the way out at that time, but I knew I wanted out. I knew that I wanted better for my child. Not so much for myself. I didn't care yet at that time for myself, but I cared enough for this child. And so that I tell her all the time. And I don't know if I want to spill the beans on how old she is now, but she knows, and I tell her all the time that she's the one who rescued me. Her precious,
Yeah.
precious little life, um, is the one that rescued me, and I know that's true of a lot of moms.
Yeah, we're working with a birth mother right now who is she and the father are working together. They both have a long history of addiction, and the father has gotten himself into a program. The father is saying, I'm going to leave you to the birth mother who's pregnant, due in 3 months. I'm going to leave you if you don't get clean. I cannot afford to be around somebody who's using. And the pregnancy has helped the birth mother become clean. She said, I'm just too tired and fatigued to, want to use. Her drug of choice is methamphetamine, which is different than an opioid. And it is
Yes.
something that a birth parent can stop more easily than something like an opioid. But yeah, we're working with that issue right now, and she's grappling the uh, with giving up that child for adoption. The birth father is saying, "I'm not in a position to parent. I don't believe we are," and they're considering an amazing couple of ours who have adopted previously. But we're working through that right now, and I can imagine, with child protective services the way that they are, it is difficult to be using. It is difficult to be homeless on the streets and not end up having that child taken away. So you probably had a lot of near misses, right? I could see where
Yes.
a police officer might come in, a police officer at any time detain you as a minor. They may, in fact, just remove that child from you.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Mhm.
can only imagine, all of the decision making that you were having to grapple with during that period of
Yes.
time.
Yes. And yet not having the maturity or the development in the brain and our brains, as we know that our prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until about mid-20s, mid to late 20s. And that, of course, is our reasoning and being able to problem solve and all of that. So that's why when you do have a young person who is expecting a child or has had a child that they're going to adopt or whatever the situation, that they really need support. They need other people in their corner, um, especially if they don't have the family that can be supportive of them. So many of the women who end up in these situations come from homes like mine.
Mm.
And again, that's sort of all they know. And I understand and I get it, especially as a therapist, as a psychologist. I've heard it many times. Um, why would they use drugs when they're pregnant? Or
Right.
why would they risk the life of their child or losing their child? Well, the person asking that question does not know addiction. They do not understand the power of addiction, the power of drugs. Um, if it were that easy, trust me when I tell you, that mother would never use.
Well, isn't it true, Tammy, that it's wrapped around hopelessness? It's wrapped around abandonment, rejection,
Yes,
abuse, you know, being yelled at, understanding anger as your defense mechanism, your response. So it's a whole legion or a whole host of
yes,
issues.
yes,
Addiction is a result of,
yes,
um, as a result of just a malformed brain, an
yes.
inability to trust.
That's right. That's
And
right.
that's why
Well,
we're so motivated for
mhm.
adoption. Tammy, for
Yes.
those birth mothers and birth parents that choose adoption, they get to see the life that they were not afforded, and they get to see evidence of that choice. And we'll be
Amen.
talking about how it is you come around this triad: adoptive parents, birth parents that are in crisis, and adoptees in a second podcast. But,
Mm,
before we go there, Tammy, I wanna and that's gonna give people real practical applications, but just again on laying the foundation for who you are. You found a family in a local church. Take us, to becoming a psychologist, because those are big steps. You have no education. You have no high school diploma, I assume, at that
no,
point, do
no,
you?
I did not.
So
I
tell
had
us,
not.
how did you become a psychologist?
Well, no, I did not have high school. I actually was arrested for drugs in the ninth grade, and I was expelled, and that was that. Um, so after I came to the Lord, I had my child, 3-year-old, got married, uh, and had 2 more children, was married about 13 years, and ended up going through a divorce that I didn't see coming. Still had no education, no training. I was a stay-at-home mom, loved my kids, and, God had been working in me over the years, and I had a lot of work that needed to be done through therapy and all of that, and God's hand. So I ended up becoming a single mom of 3 girls. Again, I still don't have a mom or a
Mm,
dad, anyone, but I do have the church to be supportive and a few people there who could support me. But I just went to the community college and started going to school full time. It was very, very scary. My girls were, great, very supportive. And I realized in my undergrad that I wanted to help people. And then I went to my master's to become a therapist, which I never imagined in a million years that I would be able to obtain a college degree. And then I went on for a second master's on my way to my PhD in
mm,
clinical psychology. Why? Because I my heart just wants to really help people and see God redeem all those things in my life. And I know that it's a tremendous story what he's done in me, and I don't want to keep it to myself.
yeah.
So becoming a clinical psychologist, going through that school just opened doors for me and gave me a platform, but I will be honest with you, the real heart and soul of what I do comes from the road I've walked.
Yeah.
And there's no question about that.
Yeah. You're
So,
again to use that term, you're authentic.
well, that's kind of what happens when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, right?
Yeah.
When you have to walk through those places and really trust God and really work hard, and there are times you feel like giving up, and you just can't. And
Yeah.
especially speaking to your audience, around the whole concept of adoption and helping moms who are adopting out and parents who are adopting and the kids themselves, there's so much that can be done to really help all these folks. And I love being a part of that. Love
That's
being a part.
great.
Mhm.
Tammy, you read today's devotion to us. Can you read that devotion today? And then after that, I'd like to share with our audience how they can connect with you before we record the second half of this podcast. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I thought this was very appropriate for today in our topic. Lord, thank you for wasting nothing. Even in the midst of obstacles, you equip me with greater wisdom, vulnerability, and patience. Mold the story of my life however you see fit. I long to manifest your glory and lead others to you. Amen. So
That's
appropriate,
great.
right?
Tammy, how do people connect with you?
Well, you can check out my website, which is soulbloomrise.com. And you can follow me there, or you can actually reach out to me through an email at tbradshawscott@gmail.com. And I do a lot of coaching. I also am an author, and I do a lot of work with folks who don't necessarily want to see a therapist or need a therapist, but they would like someone to help them and coach them and just help them through life. I do that as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that you have those kind of different tiers and you're very big on coaching. So
Yes.
people don't
Yes.
say, I'm seeing a therapist, I'm seeing a coach, right? A life coach. So that's
That's right.
great. We'll
That's right.
put the links to your website and to you down below. Tammy, I want to thank you for sharing these intimate details about your life in this first podcast. In the next podcast, we'll be getting into some practical application of how this foundation can benefit you as an adopting couple, being at going into adoption, or as a birth parent who needs support pre and post placement, as well as the adoptee. So we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Thank you, Dr. Tammy.
Thank you.